the way I wish them to be.
Hi, Tim Cant here, and in this video we're going to take a look at a house track I made in WavTool, a free online DAW. You can find a download with the project and samples in the video description, and if you like what you hear, please like and subscribe. I started this project by setting the tempo to 126 BPM. Generally with dance music, I'll start by making a drum beat, and that's exactly what I did here. I wanted a classic house feel with clean modern production values, so I decided that I'd use a tight 909 kit with some percussion layers to fill out the mix. The first element I added was a classic 909 kick drum. Not all 909s are made equal, and I made sure that I chose a 909 kick with a solid bottom end and a tasteful transient. I loaded this into WavTool's mono sampler and sequenced a 4-to-the-floor rhythm. This sound was right, so I didn't need to do any more work on it. Remember, if you'd like to use these samples yourself, you can find a link to the sample pack in the video description. The next sound I added was a relatively tight 909 open hat that plays between each beat. Again, the sound was doing all the work for me, and all I had to manage was balancing it with the kick. I did this by turning down its gain very slightly on the track. Next I added a 909 clap on the second and fourth beat of the bar. I really wanted the open hat to emphasise the energetic syncopated feel, and I didn't want the clap to be loud and take the emphasis off that, so I balanced it quite quietly with the existing elements. Thus far, everything has been bang on the grid, but if you really want a classic house feel, you really need a little touch of swing, and I used a 909 closed hat to achieve that. In WavTool, you can hold Control to move notes around without them snapping to the grid, and that's what I did here, adding a couple of open hats with 16th note swing. Getting the positioning right is important for that classic house feel, and it's also important to use the right volume level. I turned this track right down so that it's really quiet, and this helps those swung notes flow smoothly with the rest of the beat. Next I added a 909 ride, and this plays on 8th notes. Rides can be overwhelming if they're too loud, so again I turned this element down a fair way to keep that rhythm flowing smoothly. The final 909 sound I added was a crash cymbal. While I didn't feel the other sounds needed processing, I did want to give this sound a touch of atmosphere, so in the device chain I added a tempo delay and a convolution reverb. These just put the sound in a virtual space and make it sound a bit more natural and atmospheric, nothing too wild, just enough to give it a bit of a vibe. As mentioned previously, I wanted to add some percussion to fill out the mix and also get some more rhythmic flavour in there. I added a shaker loop and what I guess is a conga loop. These were already at the correct tempo, so all I needed to do was balance these. So at this stage I had a beat, and there were two elements I knew I wanted this track to have, a vocal and a bass line. I thought I'd make the bass sound first and then see if I could find a nice vocal sample to work with it. I wanted to make a bass sound from scratch, so I used Wavetable synth. This sound is based around a square wave oscillator, but I put the oscillator into sync mode, which gives it a sawtoothy feel, and this works well in context with the rest of the musical elements in the track because they're all quite soft, and having a touch of saw gives the mix a bit of edge. That said, this bass patch does have a low pass filter envelope closing over it, which dulls the sound, so it's still pretty smooth. So this is a simple one oscillator sound, and the bassline's character comes from the MIDI, where it's playing a funky little riff with some octave skipping at the start and lots of syncopation. Originally this bassline was a little different, but when I found the vocal I reworked it a bit to fit. Overall though, it's simple, but it's hitting all the right elements we need to get a groove going. So next I wanted to find a vocal, and on one of the more popular sample sites I found a pack by a legendary house vocalist that really fit the vibe I was looking for. I used one of these samples using Warp to get it to the project tempo, and I truncated and rearranged it slightly to get the feel I was looking for. I also used delay and reverb on this vocal to make it a touch less intimate and a bit more spacey.
The way I wish love can be. The way I wish love to be.
As this vocal is taken from a subscription site, it's not included in the project or sample download, I'm afraid. What I will say is that I spent a significant amount of time looking for a sample that I thought would work well, and I tried out a few samples from a couple of different sites in the process. I feel like if I'd gone with one of the other vocal samples which were okay, but not quite right, I wouldn't have been as happy with the finished product. So I do recommend taking your time to find sounds that really fit, as this will make your life easier in the long run. And this will ultimately be a better use of your time than trying to wrangle a sound that isn't quite right into your project. Moving on, normally when making a track, I'd probably get the chords going before the vocals or bass line, so I had to do things kind of backwards here, but that didn't complicate things too much because I wanted to keep things simple anyway. I thought I'd try and make a kind of Masters at Work style 2-chord groove, so I loaded a single note electric piano one-shot into a mono sampler and composed this very simple progression which consists of an F minor and a G minor, and that's it. No sevenths or anything too fancy, just a stripped back vibe.
The way I wish love can be. The way I wish love to be.
Now, as much as I love smooth house vibes, I do like to keep an up-tempo energy in there, so next I thought I'd add a musical sound that was a bit more percussive, specifically a classic percussive house organ one-shot that I loaded into mono sampler. This essentially doubles the open hat, playing on even-numbered eighth notes, and playing a couple of semitones down at the end of the 4-bar section. I used a high-end EQ to bring out the highs in this sound, and that helps its percussive essence come out.
The way I wish love can be. The way I wish love to be.
I used another vaguely percussive sound in the form of the Arc House EM2 preset in the Wavetable synth. This plays a different rhythm to the organ part and switches up to G sharp at the end of every 2 bars. Also, I used tempo delay and convolution reverb to make the sound more rhythmic and atmospheric, and I also used EQ band set to high pass mode to thin out the sound's low end, leaving room there for the drums and bass.
The way I wish love can be. The way I wish love to be.
The next element I added was an analog style string in mono sampler, and I used a high release time on this sound so that it doesn't cut out too abruptly. This sample already has a slow attack baked into the audio, so with this slow attack and release, the notes smoothly flow into one another. I also used a flange effect to give this sound a touch more movement, and again, tempo delay and convolution reverb put this sound in a virtual space, helping it sound more real and atmospheric.
The way I wish love can be. The way I wish love to be. The way I wish love can be. The way I wish love to be.
I didn't want to go overboard with the sound effects in this track because it's kind of restrained and low key, so I used some very simple transitional effects and that's it. The first of these is a reverse cymbal crash that plays at the end of each 8-bar section and helps lead into the next part of the track. Another transitional effect is this white noise riser. This has tempo delay on it and a low pass filter that prevents the high end from sounding too abrasive and keeps the sound pretty subtle. This sound plays every 16 bars. Another thing I did to help the kick punch through the mix is use sidechain compression. To do this, I created a couple of portals, a sidechain bus input, and a sidechain trigger input. Everything that I wanted to duck in volume slightly when the kick plays goes to the sidechain bus input, and the kick goes to the sidechain trigger input. These are both routed to a compressor effect in the master's chain editor. The sidechain bus is routed to the compressor's input, and the sidechain trigger is routed to the compressor's detector. This means that when the kick plays, the elements routed to the sidechain bus reduce in volume slightly.
The way I wish love can be. The way I wish love to be. The way I wish love can be. The way I wish love to be. The way.
This is pretty subtle, but it helps the kick stand out in the mix, and it also gives us more headroom in the mix, which means we can make it louder overall. For a house arrangement, I'd normally only change things up every 8 or 16 bars, but this arrangement is pretty short, and you can see that I've added elements every 4 bars at some points. This is quite a progressive arrangement, so we have more and more elements getting added and things building up. Then at bar 49, suddenly a lot of stuff drops out. Normally this could make the energy level of the track drop, but adding the ride symbol at this point changes the energy of the track, so it sounds like we're switching things up rather than stepping down a gear energy-wise. In this section you can also hear the bass line more clearly, and even though it's playing the same part as before, it makes it sound a bit more fresh and new.
The way I wish love can be. The way I wish love to be. The way I wish love can be. The way I wish love to be.
So let's have a playthrough of the track. I won't talk over this so that you can hear what's happening. You can open the project in the download with Open Project from Zip in the file menu, and you'll find the sample pack download in the description too. Until I see you again, have fun.